Uh, Hi Rajat, and welcome to this call. And first of all, to begin with, thanks a lot for agreeing to do this because, as I mentioned before while we were talking, that your story will give hope to a lot of people who are applying to ISP, and it would also motivate people about so many things which we'll be talking about in this call. So, before we start, why don't you introduce yourself for everyone who will be listening to this?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Anshul. Thanks for calling me in. And I personally also wanted to share my story for the very fact that I know per se that there are people like me who keep trying at a lower score also. And to be honest, that I also thought that I'll not be able to convert and admit at 680. But things turned out, and thanks to you because you also helped me in that journey. So we'll discuss that later in detail. Just to give a brief introduction, so I'm a mechanical engineer from Delhi College of Engineering. I'm a 2017 pass out, and after that, I joined Hindustan Petroleum and worked in different verticals, starting from projects, then operations. And thereafter, I had a stint in Jammu and Kashmir also. Typically in Jammu, I was controlling for logistics and ethanol blending petrols. So after that, I made it very clear that I wanted to go for an MBA. And after that, I went to ISB. And after ISB, I joined Vira as their end-to-end logistics head. So I hope so that things will turn out great there also. So that's it.
Okay, so Rajat, you just graduated, right? It's been 3 months, I guess.
Correct.
Graduation
Yeah, only 3 months. Correct.
convocation happens in April. So, how was your experience being a fresh graduate of ISP? What would you want to share with everyone who is trying to get into there?
So talking about the complete journey about ISP, so it was a complete roller coaster ride to be honest. And it started with a lot of FOMO, and I was advised by one of the alum that convert that FOMO into JOMO, that is joy of missing out. If you can just discount those parts, just fear of that missing out, that then it becomes very easy for you also to just navigate that path. And it's more about a transitional journey rather than getting a job per se.
Mm-hmm.
So having that idea of like a complete transformational journey, because I know for the very fact that I started with different aspects and I was aware of my weaknesses also. And over the period, I've realized that how things have changed. Just sharing an example, say, I was very bad at preparing presentations, right? So I made it a point every time we need to make a presentation, I'll be making a presentation. And over the period, I realized there was a huge change in my presentation, PPT, and uh, we ended up winning a case form also that was sponsored from Bain, and also we were in finals of HUL finish also. So that really helped me to groom myself as well as to gain that confidence that I can learn something new.
What else did you do in the campus? If you would want to tell me one or two few points, some significant things that you did.
So one of the great things I liked about campus that initially it's not about like diversity in form of gender. So the kind of cohort you get is more about cognitive diversity. In the sense, the people from different backgrounds coming at the campus, you get different viewpoints, and I try to interact with different people and try to just acknowledge their point of view, and that really helped me a lot. Adding to that, so as we give you different type of exposure, so it was a testing ground for me. I tried different subjects irrespective of that, deciding about I'll be doing majors in circle operations or marketing. It was more about deciding a subject, enjoying that subject, and I decided that I'll try out different subjects, and over the period in maybe in seventh term I'll decide in what particular specific domain I'll be doing my major. So that really helped me.
That's great, Rajat. And let's come to the main topic now. So you had a lower score when you compare that to the average score of a typical batch at ISB. What exactly? But you still ended up applying, right? You gave your best, and I clearly remember your application phase. What made you take that decision? Okay, I understand my score is low, but let me just apply.
So, to be honest, I'll start this journey from CAT 16, right? So, it started in CAT 16. I went for my coaching also. And we were a group of like three, four guys who used to go for coaching together. And CAT 16 didn't went well for all three of us. And we tried really hard, and others also had that expectation. The boss, the guy will have really great score. But to their disappointment, we ended up in a very like a decent score, and I was very clear that I want to go get into like I'm AB or C only, nothing beyond that. So again, I tried different kind of CAT and exams, but to be honest, I failed regularly. And similar story was no different in GMAT. So I took GMAT in I think 2017 or 18 without any prep and without thinking anything, and I got a score of 680 only. After preparing for rigorous, maybe like 2 years, again I ended up with a score of 680 only, and that too I think with the third attempt only. So in the third attempt, right? So it's not only about GMAT score. So I have experienced that it's about three different things: your previous acad, your work experience, and third, your GMAT score. If you can portray a good pitch in either two of them, so it will be great pitch in front of like having an interviewer also. So things do fall in place if you have good interview prep also. And for application per se, if you can have that spike in either two of the department out of three, so that will be sufficient to have an interview invite, I think.
So your academics were good. I remember distinctly, Rajat. You had been a college topper or university topper, something like that.
Correct, correct. Yeah, so I
And
was like gold medalist mechanical back
yes,
in
you were a
17.
gold medalist. And how about your 10th and 12th percentage?
So I scored like we used to have CGPA in my 10th standard, so I had 10 CGPA, and so that was a part which really helped me out. Like 10 out of 10 CGPA in 12th standard, I had a decent 96%, and
Okay,
in undergrad also I had a good score. So this helped me to offset that lower GMAT score.
right, right. So, Rajat, what tips you would give to people who are not able to increase their score? They are, I mean, they have already, they think they are saturated with respect to their GMAT score and now they cannot improve. So, what should they do with respect to their application or with respect to the entire planning to apply to ISB?
So we should be very pragmatic in our approach. It's not about ISB is not about only GMAT. Let us be very clear about it. Because there's an apprehension in the market. Ki, boss, if I don't get a GMAT above 710 or 720, you'll not get into ISB. So for the very fact that the average score of 720 says that people with 780 do end up getting into ISB, that essentially means the people with maybe 660 or 670 will also get in, right?
Right.
So if you come into that bracket, but you can't discount the very fact that other things are also important. But you feel and you're very confident about your previous acad or maybe your extracurriculars or maybe your work experience, then you must apply for it.
Right. So, Rajat, now specifically for writing the application, the essays, uh, what tips you would want to give to people who are right now writing the application? Because now it's time, right, for round one applicants. It's almost like a month to go. Not a month and a half to go. So, what tips you would give to people who are writing down their application now?
So I think it is very important to write it very diligently and to get it reviewed. So people write it very well, but miss the second part of it, getting it reviewed. So it is very important to get it reviewed by at least like 5 to 10 people. So get it helps in getting the perspective of different kind of people because you don't know what kind of people will be reviewing your application.
Right.
And if you have already got a application reviewed from maybe 10 odd people, so it gives you a good idea that what kind of things you can improve in your application. So be honest, be very structured in your application. I know that you really can help in that particular aspect and you have helped me also. So if we are very structured in our application, we are very clear about our story, and if we can have a good pitch that how can we contribute to the society after our MBA. So that will be very sufficient. And getting it reviewed is very important, what I feel.
Right. And how much time someone should take to write their application from end to end according to you? Right, and then reviewed and everything. So because some people take their GMAT till I mean they take the GMAT of just a few days before the application deadline. Is that a good idea? How many days are actually needed to prepare a strong application according to you, whatever you think?
So as of my experience, how I prepared for my application and GMAT. So these were two different things for me. So
Hmm.
GMAT preparation was one part of it, and other part was the application part. So I used to have a dedicated time for my application also, and for my GMAT prep also. So
Like
I
you did
started
parallelly.
preparing it time. Yeah, I started parallelly only
Okay,
because
okay, that's a,
normally there might be chances that I fail in GMAT, and I don't have that much time to write a good application in that small span of time, right? So I started in very early and already had a good set of like things for my application, and it was only like getting it reviewed in a later stage.
That's a great advice, Ajit, because I also keep saying the same thing that even if you're scheduling your GMAT at the end, ensure that your application is well prepared, well reviewed, and well fabricated and ready by the time you take your GMAT if you have scheduled it at the last moment. So great. Now come to the interview part. How was your interview? What do you think was happening during the interview? What were the questions that being asked, or just what was the general feeling during the interview?
So I'll just make a disclaimer here. Many people might think that since you are taking my interview, that I am just trying to sugarcoating things. But to be honest, so I had like 3, 4 interviews with you, right? So and I didn't have that much long time to have like 10 interviews or something of that sort. So within a span of 5 days, I had like 3, 4 interviews with you, and it really helped a lot. It really helped a lot. It is much more about being very precise in your story and be very structural in your story, and you really helped me out because the questions which you gave for the interview prep were a complete comprehensive set. And the question asked in the interview were no different from those questions. In fact, the interviews which you took were comparatively difficult as we compare to the actual interview. So it was more easier for me to navigate through in the final interview for the very fact that I already had those difficult interviews with you. So I think the complete structure of interview is very casual, and they make you very comfortable. And it's more about sharing your story, that how life has been throughout your career, professional life, personal life, and how ISB can help you out in your future, right? If you can communicate that very structurally and you can convince those guys. So I think interview is not that bit of a difficult kind of a thing typically ISB. So it is much like a casual talk only.
How should one prepare for interview according to you? Anyone who has got a short list, and what are the things that they should take care about?
So writing your essays really helps. So when you write your essays, so you are very clear in your approach because essays are very comprehensive and you know your strengths and weaknesses. And you write in your essays also because essays help you to have a very structural approach in the sense that how are you getting into why are you getting into ISB and what sort of things will help you there also. So you try and test different things in essays also, and if you can replicate that structure in your interview also, and I remember that you shared a complete questionnaire with me, right? So that questionnaire was very comprehensive. So first and the foremost question which is obviously asked is about like the introduction, right? So you advised me earlier that introduction has to be very structured. It's not only about speaking about your past experiences, but how do we knit the story completely into a one very descriptive kind of a thing. So that really helps. So we should be very confident about it that I have done something that essentially means that I'll be able to pitch my story in front of someone. The other thing is like whenever we answer something, it should be very structured. So you shared about the star format, I remember. So even today, it really helps. So we can follow that format. So you must have some sort of videos for that format, I believe. So that really helps me because that gives a complete overview to the listener also that how structured are you, and it becomes very easy to understand for the listener also that what the person is saying, right? So that's it from us, I think so.
Okay, we will end this with one question which I generally ask everyone who has been to ISP. What has been your biggest takeaway about life in general after graduating from ISP?
To be honest, so for me, I believe that I started appreciating everyone, irrespective of fact of the background they are coming. We usually had an idea of like respecting someone in the terms of intellect or like the ability to solve calculus or something of that sort, being an engineer. So that prejudice was completely gone after ISP. So I started appreciating that diversity and look it as an opportunity to learn from anyone and everyone. And that was great takeaway for me. And even in my job today, I look for that kind of people who are different from me because those are the people I really look up to because they have a different viewpoint. And I think if I can incorporate their viewpoint, it will be a win-win situation for me.
Great. I think I would also completely agree with you. That was my biggest takeaway as well. I came from a very niche background, and I was around a very similar kind of people, and it completely changed I knew that I am going to be among very smart people, but I didn't know the kind of diversity that I would be thrown into. So that I completely agree. That has that even after 5 years of graduating, I would say it still is my biggest takeaway from ISB. So, thank you, thanks a lot, Rajat, for your time. And as I mentioned, that this is going to give a lot of hope and a lot of motivation to a lot of people, and we have done it at a very proper time because this is the time when many people are preparing for their application and as well as interview. So great, and all the best for your new job, and I'm sure you
Thank
will do great things the way you have done it in the past. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Anshul. Thanks a lot for like hosting. And I tried my best to like explain my experience and what has worked for me. Still, I'm very open to share feedback or help anyone if one thinks that I can just help them in drafting their application or something of that sort. So one last thing I'd like to share that we should keep trying, because for me journey started in CAT 16 and I ended up getting into ISB after almost like 6 years only. So things do work, and we normally say that I was not lucky enough to get in, but at times you also get lucky enough to get at a very low score. Like for me, it was like 680. So things do fall in place. So we must keep trying.
Thanks, thank you, Rajat.